One of the greatest gifts that we can give a child isn't a trophy or a scholarship. It's the opportunity to discover who they are.
Girls are told to be like perfect, and what sports allows you to do is make mistakes and build that confidence. Now we are really leaning into this organized sports, and I think we are missing a little bit of the just go out and have fun and play. We know this in girls. Girls drop out of sports 2 times the rate of boys. Winning was at the absolute bottom of what parents and what kids really care about in joining sports.
Welcome to the Amanda Gunville Show. You know, one of the greatest gifts that we can give a child isn't a trophy or a scholarship. It's the opportunity to discover who they are. And sports have been just this incredible way of teaching confidence, resilience, teamwork, and perseverance. They create lifelong friendships, they build character, and often become some of the most meaningful memories in childhood. But those experiences, they don't happen by accidents. They happen because there are people who are passionate about creating environments where every child feels encouraged, included, and excited to play. So today's guest, I'm so excited, is Madison Gates. She's the vice president of I9 Sports, and she's someone who has dedicated her career to making youth sports a positive experience for families. And I'm so excited to learn from her. I feel like she has this pot of gold of wisdom that I'm so excited to tap into. So let's go ahead and jump in. Welcome, Madison.
Thank you so much, Amanda. It's so good to be here. I'm so excited for today's conversation.
Yay! Okay, so I feel like we need to start with a little bit of foundation. So can you just give us a background on you and how you came to be in this position with I9 Sports?
Yes, absolutely. And I am so grateful to be with I9 Sports. I joined almost a year ago, which is incredible. As you said, I'm the vice president of marketing, and we are the largest youth sports organization in the U.S. So pretty incredible. We have over 300 locations. We're franchised. So really leaning into that fun first, and how can we set kids up for success on and off the field. So before that, leaning into my background and how I got here is really kind of a testament to what sports really delivers. So I grew up playing multi-sports. Soccer became my bread and butter, the love of my life, pretty much. I played everything from soccer, volleyball, lacrosse, piano, violin, straight A's, all that. My parents just threw me into everything, and then really fell in love with soccer and continued down this competitive path and joined, an incredible travel and National League club team, Olympic development program, and was honored to be able to travel overseas and play for the U.S. on the U.S. youth national team from U16 on to 21. And I played at the University of Michigan as a goalkeeper for 4 years, and I graduated with sport management and communication degree. So really love sports. How do we continue to lean into that? And then after in my career, I really dove into marketing on the digital side. And then I've been in franchising for the last decade, but sports has always been a huge part of myself and kind of laying the foundation of success in my professional career. And I love coaching. I've coached collegiately. I've coached 3-year-olds, 5, 10-year-olds, whatever it may be. And just seeing that smile on their face when they make a play or they meet a teammate or they just feel super excited to walk off that field, even without a trophy, right? It's all around their resilience, their confidence building, the teamwork and the friendships that they build is something super special because I'm able to give back to what sports gave me. And I think that's so important. So, an evolution of my career, I was in franchising and automotive and home services and private equity. And now after about 10 years of that, I'm back into youth sports and really leaning into a mission-driven organization that really helps set the stage for success for kids and adults as they, move on in their life. So I couldn't be more honored and excited to be here in my career.
I love it. You know what I love about your background is that you have had sports and what we'd like to call real world experience, but you can have your whole career in sports. That's still real world, but you have been in other industries. So I feel like so many people, when they're putting their kids in sports, they're like, I want them to learn soccer. I want them to learn, for us, golf, right? I want them to learn this game. But I feel like you touched on this just a second ago, that you've seen firsthand that it's so much more than that. So what do you think like sports teach children that they can't literally learn anywhere else?
Yeah. I mean, one of the biggest things, and I think that Billie Jean King had a quote here a couple months ago, is like, girls are told to be like perfect. And what sports allows you to do is make mistakes and build that confidence on the field. That if you're in education or you're taking a test and you get something wrong, right? Like you're graded on that. But in sports, it's like, no, you're resilient, make mistakes, try something new, and then you're celebrated for it. I think that's an incredible piece that sports really leans into. And you highlighted this is like the friendships, the teamworks, the accountability for yourself and team members, right? It brings you into corporate as a leader. Like I'm accountable for my actions. I'm accountable for what we're delivering. And then I empower my team to do the same thing. And that's really a big piece of when I was a goalkeeper taught me is like, I need to empower my teammates as a goalkeeper, a leader on the field for them to give their best and to work together because it's not an individual sport. And there, golf's individual too, and you continue to learn. But for the soccer and the team sports, it's like, how do you show up the best for yourself, but also the best for your teammates, which really resonates in the professional space now too.
Absolutely. I hadn't really thought of sports in that light. I have heard Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx, say that growing up, her dad used to say every day at the dinner table, how did you fail today? And they were celebrating the ways in which they tried something and it didn't quite work out. And I never really thought about using that within the sports realm of like, how else do you learn how to do any move in sports? You fail at it a whole bunch of times and then you get good. And I feel like schools so often, and even in work, will say like perfectionism. But how are you supposed to learn if you don't fail?
Yeah.
So I feel like that's such a great, way to bring that also into that teaching. I'm curious because I have a 5-year-old and I've always wondered like, when do I start like those kinds of conversations with her? But I'm curious from your perspective, what's a great age for kids to start organized sports?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And when we were growing up, right, it was just go out and play, just be out not in front of the TV. We didn't have TVs. We didn't have cell phones at that time. Go climb a tree, just go out and play. Now we are really leaning into this organized sports. And I think we are missing a little bit of the just go out and have fun and play. But 3-4, we start at 3. So I9 Sports is 3 to 14 is our real bread and butter. So we say, yeah, go ahead. Go trip up over a soccer ball. Go try and swing a bat and like T-ball, right? We start really early because they're starting to get their motion and their movements and their athleticism and just kind of their orientation for hand-eye coordination. And that's just a great way to like continue to be athletic or moving throughout. So 3 is great. And, that way you have some coaches who are encouraging and they, it's not all about hitting a ball or passing one or, making a block at that time. It's really, can they have fun? Can they run around? Can they get coordination? And at I9, right, it's age appropriate as they move up. And if you want to start at 6, if you want to start at 7 or 8, we'll do different kinds of age appropriate training, coaching as they mature. I think that's really important. You're going to continue to learn, every step of the way and every age that you grow into on and off the field. So the earlier the better is not, and we're a part of Youth Enrichment Brands. We have Safe Splash who does swimming, right? Like we get the kids in the pool early so that they know and they can coordinate and how can they survive in a pool. So as long as you're there and supportive, any activity is great early on.
I feel like that's one of the unique things as I was learning about your organization and I love it. It's like, it's not just about, yes, let's go out and, learn how to kick appropriately or, hold a bat or whatnot. You weave in fun and all of these you make sports fun. So I just think that is such a unique perspective. I'm curious kind of how you guys do that. So if I'm someone who's a little nervous putting my 5-year-old in, what should I feel comfortable knowing that she's going to get being a part of I9?
Love that question because we're continuing to lean into, right? We're now in the age of AI and we're trying to see like, what are parents really asking? And your question is like, I'm nervous to put my kid here. We're trying to build that content of, the fun first, our three pillars, right? We're kind of reviving this. We've been around for 20 years. Well, what does the next 20 years look like? So leaning into parent behavior, consumer behavior, they are looking for fun. So how do we have coaches, all the high fives? We do, how can we create the raving fans and making sure that we're encouraging? That's your fun first. And then we have another pillar that's sportsmanship and character and confidence building, because we did a lot of surveying and research on this of what are parents looking for. And their number one is confidence building, a sense of belonging and character. So we have had sportsmanship medals throughout over the last 20 years. And if Susie goes out and she is the teammate of the day, she gets that medal, right? And that's just a way to build confidence, having fun. They're like, oh, I won something. I don't need to win the game, but wow, I'm learning and I'm being recognized for that. So our sportsmanship, character building, confidence is our second pillar. And then because I-9 is multi-sport, we really lean into the multi-sport development. So we have soccer, t-ball or baseball, basketball, volleyball, tennis, flag football is a huge one for us. And how can the kids go out and figure out what's fun for them? Because some may love to catch the football. Some may want to kick a soccer ball. Some may want to swing a bat. So allowing parents to be like, oh, they can try different things, whether it be a certain league. We have camps that do multi-sport as well. And you just throw the kid in and see what makes them smile.
Yeah. I feel like that's such an interesting transition over the last 10 to 20 years, is that I think parents think they're maybe doing the right thing, right? About like, okay, this kid looks really talented in this one sport, so we're going to do it summer, fall, winter, spring. And we're seeing all of these crazy overuse injuries at the age of 12. And so I'd love to touch on this a little bit more based on, I'm telling you what I'm seeing from my friends and their kids, but I'd love to hear what you're seeing across the board with thousands of families and thousands of kids.
I know. It's a huge conversation over the last several years, right? So I coached collegiately. I played collegiately. My path was very different. Our paths were different from a lot of other parents. It's really only 7% go on to play high school, 1% go on to play Division I, right? Like that is a very small number. And these parents are like, well, if I don't do this, then my kid's behind, right? So we have seen this pendulum swing of, well, I need to do the travel. I need to spend thousands of dollars. I need to be in a hotel because, my kid's behind. And to your point, we're seeing the overuse injuries. We're seeing the burnout, not only in the kids, but the parents, especially having to juggle all of the logistics of having multiple kids and multiple this. It's what I-9 set up for, which is why I love it too. Like I said, my path was a little different, but there should be accessibility and opportunity for every family, every kid who wants to play. And I-9's one day a week, if we want to, is our bread and butter for leagues. We do a practice and then a game, but then we have camp opportunities. We have training opportunities if they want to continue and do multiple times a day. But kind of going back to your original question of, yeah, we're seeing a lot of overuse. We're seeing a lot of injury. We're seeing the burnout. And we know this in girls. Girls drop out of sports 2 times the rate of boys. And I don't have the data points around this, but I could imagine that even boys are getting burnt out before going on to high school and before going on to college as well because of this. And yeah, it's being talked about across the industry. And how do we educate parents and how do we make sure it's continuing to be fun for the kids, so that they don't give up the sport or don't give up athletics or don't give up the activities, so that they're sedentary by the time they're in high school and college, because we want people and kids to be active, right, in this day and age. So
yeah, it's interesting. I feel like if you go too competitive too early, you do burn out. I mean, I saw my brother burn out in baseball at like age 12 because, they did the whole all-star all the way, but it was just so much pressure. It was like, okay, we're done with that. And for me, it was gymnastics that got too competitive. I'm like, I just want to jump around.
yeah.
I don't necessarily want to have to do flips and all the things. But, I'm curious. I feel like a lot of times, that's one way kids drop out, right? Is because they're just burnt out. But I also feel like there's a dropout because maybe they're not like the best kid on the team and they're like, I'm not good, so therefore I'm not going to keep going, which to me is so sad because there's so many other lessons besides being the star of the team. So like, how do you create an environment where the bench player, the kid who's not the star on the team, wants to keep going.
Yeah. And I know, and that's the difference in this culture, Amanda, what you had said is there's this shift to that club and that travel where there's tryouts, right? And you have this anxiety. And I'm sure that we know we're in this anxious generation where kids are like, oh my gosh, whether it be reading a book in school and I'm like, oh, I gotta make sure I'm perfect, or whether it's a tryout or being picked last at gym class with I-9. And it's truly more of the education. And what I'm trying to lean into as like the leader of marketing as a thought leader of we have opportunities where kids can play. There's no tryouts. Everybody gets out there and they play. I mean, that's what it used to be when we were playing. It's like, all right, let's rotate everybody and play whatever position you want. And now to your point of like making it early specialization, I'm only going to play forward, or I'm only going to, be a quarterback or this. It's like, no, you go out and play and you're a teammate and you figure out how to work together in different parts of the field, of the different parts of the team, just like we learn in corporate America or on your business team or, working cross-departmentally. So, I think it's more of the thought leadership, the education that there are opportunities out here for recreation that you don't need to go and travel and burn out and sit on the bench because goodness, if I was a parent and my kid was sitting on the bench and I'm spending $1,000 a weekend and traveling, and dragging my other 3 kids, like that's not fun for anybody. Right. So, which is why I love the recreation side. And I'm hoping that the pendulum and the conversations will continue to swing back of there's an opportunity for everybody and there is a path. If you want to go that, more of the travel, competitive route, awesome. Like you're working towards that. Great. And know that there's still opportunity for kids to play. And to your point, we want to make sure that parents are aware of it because they're the ones making the decision with 6, 7, 8, 9-year-olds. Some as they get older, they're like, no, I want to play with my friends, which is a truth. And they could be going to that club in more competitive route. But we just got to continue to talk about it. We have to continue to have these conversations that there's opportunities for everybody.
Exactly. I mean, I feel like also I hear so many kids say like, I'm just not athletic. And I'm curious as they're developing, like how much of that is that they don't have the ability versus it's just confidence. Can you develop? I mean, you hear those great stories about Michael Jordan getting cut from the high school basketball team and then being the most incredible player of all time. And you hear that story so often. So I'm curious, that's obviously one beautiful unicorn story, but what do you see across?
Yeah. I mean, I think athleticism, there is a point of like, you're born with it, right? I mean, some people are more athletic and agile and are going to be the ones that go on. However, everybody can go out and play, right? Like we talk about golf, we talk about tennis, we talk about running. Like that's just going out and being active and moving your body. And, you don't have to be the number one athlete. If you're putting in the work and you want to be out there and you're having fun, right? That shouldn't stop you because, not everybody is born or blessed with athleticism, but you can continue to get better. It's just like put whatever you put your mind to. And I think this in school and in profession of whatever, you can continue to get better, right? We lean into that of, I want to get better 1% every day. Every day is not going to be perfect, but what can I improve? And what can I learn? And I think that's taught on the sports field. Like, here's what I did today. We go back to the moves. Like, ooh, did I do a step over? Awesome. And I didn't trip on my face, trip on my feet and fall on my face, right? It's the same thing of a math problem in school. You have to work that muscle and you have to go out, but it has to be fun. So encouraging coaches is a need, right? And a necessity of making sure that we have that support for kids on the field.
Yeah. And I feel like, speaking if it's genetic or not, that sure, there's a lot of kids who get introduced to a sport like our family. We're golfing family. So we introduced my daughter, and she was just walking and we know it inside and out. We played competitively, collegiately, the whole thing. But there's also a lot of parents who don't know whatever sport it is that their child is playing. And I feel like in one sense, it's awesome that there are these programs like yours. So like, for example, I don't know a lot about soccer. So being able to put my daughter in soccer and have coaches who can teach her the drills and everything is so wonderful. The one thing that I hear so often from my friends, my girlfriends especially, is that I want to at least know something. I want to be able to ask them about what they learned and be able to have this connection through sports. Is that something that you feel is important? And do you hear that from parents a lot, that they want to have that connection, even if they don't necessarily know the sport?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I've talked to a lot of people in the industry around that. I think parents' education is lacking, and a lot of people are diving into it, right? How can we make resources for parents to understand, the ins and outs of different sports, and, so that we can have that connection? I'm sure I go back to ask my mom. Growing up, I was a daddy's girl. He took me everywhere with soccer. Like, he knew ins and outs and on and off the field. And mom, she was an incredible supporter, but she was like, okay, she's the goalkeeper. Like, she's got to save the ball. That's all I really know about it. And, we definitely lacked the connection, because that's what I lived and breathed and eat and slept, right, of soccer. And she didn't really know a ton about. So I think with our day and age now, we have so many abilities to create these resources. And now, how do we get it to the parents, and how do they take these courses? And I know a lot of people are building this content, which is fantastic. So we have a convention coming up in the next few weeks, and I'm kind of talking about the car ride home. So it kind of leans into what you're saying of like, well, I want to know a little bit about what you did on the field, and I'm just there to support you, but I at least want to know what you're saying. So I kind of highlight for a parent, it's your job on the car ride home to just be encouraging and say, I love watching you play, and kind of like leave it at that. And then them kind of come and say, oh, it's great to have your support. Right. So I love what you're saying of like making sure there's that connection with parents and them learning and understanding what they're playing.
I feel like that's such a great place to start. And what a great topic for a conversation, by the way, at a convention of like, if I don't know obviously if you know a ton about the sport, that conversation's easy, or maybe not, because sometimes it gets too technical and there's that another layer of pressure, right? That the kid feels. Not only did they feel it from their teammates, from their coach, now they're going to have to get into the car and answer to their parent who's the guru, right? So advising parents to say, okay, I love watching you play. What are some other things that they can say?
I don't know. I would love to, continue to lean into those who are the experts in that. Like, how do we continue to guide parents in what they say, to help the kids' psychology? Because, if I go back to it, my dad knew a lot about soccer. So he's like, well, you made this play not so great, right? Like, what are you going to do next time? So he was definitely a tough love, but I think I love watching you play. You were a great teammate out there. I loved how hard you worked, all of those positive encouragement. Like, oh, wow, even if I made a mistake, mom and dad saw that I was at least trying my hardest. And that's, I think, all you can expect from your kids too. Or I hope that, like, if you're going out there and trying your best and you're giving it your all and being the best teammate that you possibly can be, like, you're going to continue to succeed. So,
yeah, that's so interesting. I remember when my brother played basketball through high school, and my dad would get so frustrated because he would be like, my brother was phenomenal. He was a really good outside shooter, but my dad would get frustrated, be like, oh, he needs to be doing this, this, and this. And my mom finally just said, did it ever occur to you that this is his best, right? Like, and maybe we should just celebrate what this is. And I thought that was a big turning point, number one. But then I remember, I don't know, I was probably a junior in high school, and my brother was in college. He was exactly 4 years older than me, and he was playing golf for Notre Dame at the time. And I was all excited to call my big brother and be like, I won the tournament today. And he goes, well, what did you shoot? And I told him what I shot. And he was like, huh. I was like, okay, like I won. Like, why is my big brother celebrating with me? And he goes, did you play your best? And I was like, no. Because he knew that score was not a great score for me, even though I won. And so I felt like, it's a little different coming from a big brother, right? Or an older sibling than your parent. But it was a big lesson for me to learn that it isn't just about winning. It's, did I get out there? Did I try my hardest? Or if it's obviously that's an individual sport, but especially on a team sport, like, were you a good teammate? Did you high five your buddy, even though they didn't do so well, or they made a mistake or whatever? I feel like there's so much more to it than just, did you win?
Yeah. And going back to survey results, right? Winning was at the absolute bottom of what parents and what kids really care about in joining sports, right? It is. It's,
Really?
did you give your best? Yes. Like we have data points. I'll send you, well, we can send you over some from our surveys for our Games Are for the Girls campaign that we launched last year. We really wanted to dive into the survey results and like, how are we set up to be the right place for parents and kids, so that, is there something foundational that we aren't doing at I-9 that, hey, maybe we can learn from? So winning was at the absolute bottom. It's more of the confidence building. It's, did you do your best? Did you shoot? And did you learn? Like, did I learn something? That is like, wow, that makes you excited to step out the field. And every day isn't going to be your best, right? But if you step off that field or that court or the course, you know, and did I learn something new? Wow. Okay, I can take that back and learn from it the next time, whether or not I did. But I love what you said about you won that tournament, but you knew that deep down, like it wasn't your best time that you showed up. And when I've coached, I've said that, like, I'll take a loss any day if we gave everything that we could out on that field and we left it all out on the field, because there's always going to be somebody better than you. And I think I take that into my professional career as well, as there will always be somebody working harder than you who is better than you. But if you show up to be 100% yourself and your best, that's all you can ask for. So I love that he had asked you that, like, well, was that your best? Or, you know, it's great to have a win. You know, I'll take a win. I'll take a win most days too. Because I love winning. But I think the overarching theme is, you know, what did you learn? Did you have fun? And what can you take away from that?
Yeah. It's funny. I got one of those parenting Instagram reels sent to me, or I saw it, and it said, start at this age, the younger age, like start asking your kid, what were you most proud of today? And I felt like at first I thought it was going to be all about my daughter saying like, oh, I won this race, or I did this the best, or whatever. And what I found was that night after night after night, as I was tucking her into bed, and I would say, what are you most proud of today? She would say, my art. And I was like, you know, she'd bring home these little scribble drawings. Right? And I didn't really think much of them because they're kind of the same thing over and over again. But all of a sudden, it dawned on me that that is what was important to her. And so I just started changing my tune. At the end of the day, when we would get home, I'd grab all of her scribble papers up and I'd be like, oh, tell me about your art. Like, what was this about? And her eyes would just light up, and they would, you know, she'd tell me it was, this blob is mommy and this blob is daddy. And I feel like that's another thing that parents can do in sports, right? Of saying like, what were you proud of today? And all of a sudden you'll start to learn what actually matters to that kid. And it might not be anything to do with a skill. I could say, oh, I really, you know, it was really fun. I taught Johnny this cool skill.
Yeah.
You know, their teammate or whatever.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's always a fun one. I'm curious because you have so many great, like diverse experiences from coaching to now being in this executive role. But if you could look back, like, is there any great stories that you have of a child or a family that's really like stuck with you? You felt like there was a transformation or whatnot that, you know, that really impacted you. I'm curious if you do, and like what made it memorable.
That's a great one. Well, I've got one. So I've coached every age, really. And I started when I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina after I graduated, and I'm from upstate New York. I started coaching for Charlotte Soccer Academy, and I started with some of them who were like 8 years old. So I had the same team from the time they were 8 until they were U16. And that was incredible. And usually as a club coach, you rotate every 2 years, but we were a top team, and I kind of gained some respect from the parents, and it was just easy. They were awesome. The girls were just connecting with me. We were continuing to grow, and seeing the ebb and flow of girls like leave the sport, even though they were kind of some of our top players. Like I had one, she was incredible. She was probably top 5 that I had on my team. Well, she went on to go play volleyball. Well, now she's playing on the national, like in a national league for volleyball. So it's really cool to be like, okay, I saw her evolution on the soccer field, and now she's going to play volleyball, right? So like leaning into this multi-sport is what kind of resonates with me, right? In I-9 of those stories of, wow, she was so incredible with soccer until like 10. And then she was playing basketball and volleyball. And now, she's going on and she'll probably go to college for volleyball. But, just seeing all the things that she learned on the field was a really cool one. So that's a fun story there. I'm sure there's like a lot of other ones. When I coached collegiately, a Division II school, I've coached 2 Division II schools. One, I found that a lot of the girls were entitled and it was more of this private school. And they were like, well, where are my uniforms? And, they weren't the ones who were showing up and like gritting it out and doing that. Well, then I went on to a different Division II school and I coached and I became the head coach there. We won 3 conference championships. The camaraderie, the blood, sweat, and tears that they put into each other was something, and I get the chills talking about it, was something that you don't see a lot on teams because women, we have emotions and there's drama and all this. There was rarely none of that. And it was, just a testament to either their upbringing or how, their club team performed. But when we got on that field, I mean, you could see the spark and we won 3 conference championships. And it wasn't necessarily that they were the best. It was just how did we play together and we left it all out on the field. So different connections and why it's so important in a team sport, because the other Division II school, we were bottom of the conference, like all they cared about was walking around campus in their soccer uniforms and saying, I'm playing. It's like, well, you are playing, but you're not really learning and growing and like being a great teammate. So it's very interesting to see the different dynamics in team sports and what really succeeds and what doesn't.
That is fascinating. I mean, and I also feel like you're talking about sort of girls and their priorities and boys too, but at least I feel this way as a parent, especially. There's like 8 million things I feel like I should be putting my daughter in. There's dance, there's art, there's music, and then, and there's sports. And I'm like, I don't have the time to do all of these things. And I also don't feel like I think that's overwhelming kids, but I'm curious, when you're trying to, as a parent, when you're trying to prioritize all of those different things, why do you feel like it's still worth the time to make sports be one of those top priorities amongst the 4 or 5 other things?
Well, yeah, no, 1,000%. And I think I'm sure, right, what overwhelms you is like, do we have 3 games on Saturday? Do we have 5 games on, Sunday? Am I doing different sports with each kid on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night, right? And they have to do schoolwork and they have to get fed, right? So what I love about the rec and 1 day a week, you are going out and being active, right? So one of our biggest things with youth enrichment brands is getting away from the screen epidemic of getting them out and playing and moving their body. So not only are you building the foundation that we've talked about of the confidence building and the teamwork and the sense of belonging that you have in sports, but you're also getting them away from the screens that are hurting their, brains and not getting them to think logically and critically. So I think that is extremely important of making sure that athletics or movement or fitness of sport of some sort is absolutely imperative for parents. So you just got to find the balance of if it's 1 day a week, it's 1 day a week. And you can say, Sally and Johnny, you get to pick what sport it is. And we're going to figure it out as a family because this family dynamic is the most important versus us running around ragged. And I hear a lot about that with parents now of, all right, we're just chasing the kids. Well, then what happens to that family dynamic,
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, I remember my mom had a rule. She's like, you can pick one artsy thing. So that could have been, either dance or gymnastic, and then one sport. It's like, you get 2 things. She's like, I'm not your chauffeur all week long. And it was great because then we got to choose. At one point, I said, okay, I don't want to do gymnastics anymore. I want to do jazz and tap. And this is the sport I want to do for this, fall. Then there's the winter sport, the spring sport, whatever. So I felt like that was for us was a really good balance. I don't know how parents who have like 6 kids do it. I have 1 and I feel like I'm running ragged, but that's why parents are superheroes and it's unreal. A couple questions ago, you mentioned this incredible initiative you guys are working on for girls. Mm-hmm. Please share it with us. Tell us all about it.
Yeah. So Games Are for the Girls is our commitment to getting 500,000 girls playing annually by 2030 with I-9. So the split across the industries, we have about 30% girls playing and 70% boys. So we really want to see how can we continue to lean into creating the environments, the accessibility, the opportunity for girls to have a place to play. That's one thing. And then how do we create, going back to the environment of making sure that they feel a sense of belonging. So 500,000, we average about 180 right now, 200,000 girls. So we really want to continue to grow that. We're investing in talking about girls dropping out at 2 times the rate of boys. Like, how comfortable do they feel, right? Like, when it comes to puberty, when it comes to their jerseys, how are they fitting? So we just launched a new volleyball jersey that's women's cut, which makes them feel more comfortable as they're going through this pre-pubic and, puberty. And they're like, oh, this fits me better than a big basketball jersey, or how can I feel comfortable on the court? So we have different initiatives layering into how are we going to get to the 500,000. One, we just launched New Jersey May 1st. How are we encouraging our franchisees to elevate more girls only sports? So flag football was huge. We know that. Like, flag is growing. We are now year over year have seen 40% growth in girls in flag football, which is incredible. So it's encouraging our franchisees, hey, this is not a trend of girls in sport. Like, we need to lean into it, else our competitors are. But we also we want to make sure that there's an opportunity, accessibility for girls to sign up. So flag football, right? We're leaning into volleyball, elevating girls soccer. We're in the World Cup right now. How can we make sure that girls have a place to play? Most of our leagues are co-ed, and that's awesome. We want to make sure that, especially at the younger age groups, it doesn't matter, but we see based in data that girls feel more comfortable and, more confident when they have an opportunity to play with all girls. So as they get older, we want to make sure that we have leagues, camps, trainings, clinics that are girls only, and how can we continue to coach them in a different way. So we've got jerseys, we've got new programs that we're elevating, and now coaching resources. So we work with Positive Coaching Alliance, Coaching Her. We have an internal coaching team of coaching girls is different than boys. So how can they make sure that they're seen, heard, and felt that they are comfortable when they're stepping out on the field? So those are the 3 we're really leaning into over the last year. We launched this last July and really went kind of public with it on National Girls and Women's in Sports Day in February, which was incredible. So yeah, it's not going anywhere, and we are leaning in and, just hoping to provide that environment that girls feel seen and that they can grow in confidence.
I love that. It's so funny, growing up, we've had such we've talked about this, we've had such parallel experiences with our dads. My dad was, you either play golf or you're kind of not in the family. And he would, he would push me so hard. He would read about what Tiger Woods' dad was doing, and he was like, oh, he's doing a cowbell while you're practicing, so I'm going to go ahead and make the same noises so that you get mentally tough. And he was really into it. And at the time, as a teenage girl, I just felt, it was hard, right? It was hard on me. And then it was interesting because after the fact, like when I was in my late 20s and we were able to talk about it as an adult, he told me that the reason he pushed me so hard in golf wasn't necessarily just because he wanted me to get a collegiate golf scholarship, which is what I thought that's what he wanted. He said he wanted it to be something that I felt confident about, because so often teenage girls wrap their sense of self, their sense of accomplishment, their sense of confidence in whether or not boys like them. Mm-hmm. And it's just, unfortunately, it's just the way it is. So he said, I wanted you to have something that no one could take away from you, right? It didn't matter if you won every tournament or not, but no one could take away the fact that you knew this or you had this skill. And I feel like that's, same thing with a girl in any sport. And that's why I love this initiative that you guys are doing, because we're seeing so many problems and challenges with these poor teenage girls with social media and trying to keep up and trying to be whatever you think you're supposed to be. So if you can dive into something else, maybe we bring down depression rate, stress, suicide, all the things that are tough. So I feel like your initiative is like, on the surface, people might just say, yay, more inclusion for girls, but it goes so much deeper than that,
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. No, I love that story. And yeah, we have very parallel. Like I was definitely known as the athlete in school, right? And I loved it. I'm so glad that I had that. And now in my career of just feeling so confident in what that helped me become as a young adult, as a young female. Now I can take it into my career as well. Because yeah, to your point, a lot of my friends really cared about the popularity contests and the boys and all that. And that's still today. And that was without social media. So to your point, it's so sad of how girls are feeling. So how can we get them out on the field and like create great friendships? Because I think those are the most authentic and they're my best friends to this day. I have a group chat with all my Ann Arbor girls. Like it's Ann Arbor girls. We always go back to Michigan every fall and there's 10 of us who are so close of just, these are our best friends and they went through this with us and we have somebody that we can lean on who knows exactly who we are without having to, yes, of course, boys and all that other stuff mattered, but wow, to have a sense of community that you get to be yourself and, continue to grow is incredible.
It's everything because I mean, even when they do the study on the blue zones, right? That like how people live to be 100, the centurions, like one of the number one things outside of course, clean food and water is sense of community. So if that's how people are living to be 100, of course, that's how girls can feel confident and included what a gift. Like I got goosebumps just hearing about your group text with these 10 girls that you will have for life. And no matter, because everyone's going to go through hard times, right? You will all have issues, whether it's in marriage, kids, parents aging, all of it. But to be able to have this community of women, and it doesn't matter if you were the star Madison or Sally, who was number 10 in skill, you're all equal in this community and you can rely on one another. You can talk about your tough times. You can be vulnerable with one another. And like, what a gift. What a lifelong gift.
I know. Yeah. And leaning into at the high school age, which is why it's so important to have these positive coaches and understanding how they coach girls is different, right? Especially in that adolescent to puberty time. We talk a lot about it. Like, do you have tampons in your backpack? Are there bathrooms there so that they can change so that they don't have to, are sports bras fitting? I was with the Women's Sports Foundation talking all about this. How do we make every environment comfortable so girls can feel confident and comfortable and not be have this negative self-esteem? And that's why we see a lot of these dropout rates are the coaches able to coach them differently, communicate differently, but then do they have the resources for the girls who are stepping out on the field? There was an ad and I can't remember who put it out, but it was around like blood, sweat, and tears on the field and with white shorts and like your period and all this. It's kind of like normalizing that for women in sport. Imagine getting that message out there and having girls not feel like self-conscious about having that. Like it'd be incredible to keep more girls involved at that age.
I didn't even think about that. Or like volleyball shorts that are tight. I mean, all of that. And you're moving. Your body is moving, which means there's stuff that can go on.
Right.
And so not having to have that insecurity while you're trying to perform your best, be a good teammate, all the other things, because God forbid you have a leak,
Yeah.
Yeah. So I literally never even thought about that. But I mean, it's inevitable. You are going to have a game that's going to happen every 28 days.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's a lot of research out there now that we're trying to lean into more of like, okay, understanding the cycle of women too, because there's no research out there around women in sports, let's be honest. So I think FIFA for soccer just ponied up a few $1 million, whether it be testing around ACL. We talked about overuse injuries and women in sports and the ACL injuries. How can we prevent that? But then I think also, and part of that was around the menstrual cycle and how are they playing and how can we train their bodies different so they're ready to go 110 on the field, when that's that time of the month. So there's going to be more research here. I think FIFA put out some, few $1 million in doing that. I'm like, awesome, finally.
That's fascinating. So I have connected with women who are doing, their PhDs and they're doing this research around the workplace environment and how women are at their peak creative state at certain days of the month. They're at, all of these different things. But why wouldn't there be the same thing around sports and how they would be able to perform and how, as a coach, you can handle that? Because especially if
Right.
you're a male coach, it's a little overwhelming. But,
Yeah.
usually when we're all around each other, we sort of all sync up.
Yeah.
And so you can
Yeah.
probably navigate it a little bit easier. I will make sure I want to connect you with her too. Her name's Dr. Kayla. I'll think of her last name, but either way, I want to connect you with her because there might be some great data. She's spent, decade doing this work. I'm sure it could translate into the world of sports.
Love
Why
it.
wouldn't it?
I know. And I really just started thinking about it too. And I'm way past that time. I'm like, oh my gosh, this makes sense. Like I just sucked it up. It was that time of the month. Like you just do what you've got. You have to perform when you're at the levels that we played at. You have to perform. But going back to those who just want to go out and play and have fun. Well, you're feeling crappy one day. It's like, oh, well, that makes sense. Right? Like,
Yep.
but I just was like, okay, well, pull your big girl pants on and, bootstrap it up. Let's go. We've got to go out and perform. There's no excuses, right? That's how we lived it. And now it's cool that these conversations are being had about,
How unhealthy is that? Like, oh, just stuff down. Oh, there's this giant chemical reaction happening in your body with hormones. But you know what? You don't know. You just have to stuff that down and just go be a rock star. So,
Yep.
yeah, I mean,
no excuses.
no. Well, when you and I were playing too, like there wasn't much of an internet unless you had dial up, right? And so
Yeah.
I just aged myself great there. But there were no resources outside of what you learned in 5th grade anatomy of like, how are you feeling? It's normal, okay, to want to feel like you're going to punch your coach, right? Like that's a normal feeling saying, hey, there are certain days you are going to want to not respond appropriately. And
Yeah.
number one, that's okay, but let's give you some tools of how to handle that. Like,
Yeah.
hey, there's a punching bag back there in the back room. Go ahead and just duke it out with the bag.
Gosh.
Hold your tongue, whatever. But obviously those aren't the best tools. That's what the experts are for. But it's just nice to normalize it in general. So I want to kind of close out for anyone who doesn't know or isn't aware of I-9 Sports. I would love for you to just explain if somebody's like, wow, that's really interesting. I heard you say that it's a kind of a franchise model. What if I'm interested in bringing this to my community? And then there's the parents who, oh, I've heard of I-9. It's in my community, but I'm maybe not involved yet. So can you talk to us both from both sides, what the opportunities are to get involved with I-9?
Absolutely. So yeah, as I mentioned before, we've been around for 20 years, which is awesome. And we're continuing to grow. So if you do not have one in your community, we are open and we love those who are really passionate because yes, we're a franchise model, but you have to go out in your community and make sure that, you are connecting with the parents and educating them, right? So community and feel, right? People are craving this relationship. We went so far digital after COVID that now it's like, no, I'm sending my kids somewhere and they're learning. So, our franchisees or our program directors go out in the community, do in-person events, connect with the schools. So that's as a franchisee, what they're doing in their communities and how they can continue to grow there. And multi-sport, right? So soccer, flag, t-ball, baseball, basketball, volleyball. I think I said soccer, tennis. We have not done golf yet, but there's a few others that we do as well. And then, yeah, if you have it in the community, really our bread and butter is one day a week. Normally Saturdays or Sundays, we have practice and then a game right after. But then we've continued to expand our offerings for training. So if you want to do 2 days or 3 days a week, franchisees offer that for soccer or basketball or volleyball. And then there's camps and clinics. Camps we do obviously a lot in the summer, right? But then clinics are if you're really just starting out and you only want to do a few weeks or a few days of this to get your feel of this sport. We do a lot of that in volleyball, some soccer, some flag football now that that's continuing to grow. So there's a few different offerings and depending on the location, you can find age appropriate, as I mentioned, like we obviously are doing it by age appropriate and we build teams, no tryouts, no cuts. We are all around fun first, sportsmanship, character and confidence building, and then multi-sport development. So your kid can go out and figure out what really lights a fire and, makes them super excited.
And for those who are both from the, considering the business side or a parent, just so that they know and they're aware, you as an organization organization provide all of that training, all of those kind of foundational frameworks to help those people create this program. It's not like, oh, here, slap I-9's name on it, go out and do it.
No, yeah, we have everything. I mean, operationally for the last 20 years, here's what really works. Here's where you have to market. Here's your area of play. Like, here's your return on investment, and then you go out and execute that. But everything from playbooks to operational toolkits, same with, we have a development team, an operations team. We've got purchasing, right? Like uniforms come through all of that. So that is all set up for you. Technology is huge now. So automation in terms of marketing, email campaigns, paid search, all of that. You go on, everything's kind of pretty much set up for you, and you have to go out and execute on the field. Our job is to continue to help you drive registrations and families. Now you have to deliver the experience on the field, right? So, and that's your coaches training. That's your giving the high fives and the positive, creating the raving fans so that they come back year over year and bring their family and friends.
Yeah. And that gives parents so much comfort knowing that if I send my kid there, they're going to have fun. Because no matter if you're in Wichita, Kansas, or Los Angeles, California, you go to I-9, the coaches are going to have this kind of standard of positivity and fun and all of the ways in which you are training the coaches and providing those trainings. What a comfort as a parent. I know that's what I feel as a parent. So, well, Madison, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for, I said it at the beginning and I'll say it again. I feel like you have this pot of gold of wisdom, and I definitely think we got to experience that today. So thank you so much for taking the time with us today.
Thanks, Amanda. It's so wonderful talking with you. I could talk with you for hours.
I know. And we'll go episode 2 with Madison coming up next.
Perfect.